The graduation ceremony wasn't what Cynthia had imagined. No grand arena, no roaring crowd, just a folding chair on the lawn 6 feet apart from the next, and a cloth mask that stuck to her cheeks under the June heat. The air was still heavy, full of hand sanitizer and unspoken grief. Her classmates waved silently, air-hugged, from across the courtyard. No one lingered, no one shouted. It wasn't joy, it was survival. But then, out of the corner of her eye, she saw him. Grandpa Walter, in a pressed blue shirt, standing near the exit gate with a paper bag and a smile that cut through all the distance in the world. He didn't say much, just handed her the keys and a note. 2012 Subaru Outback. Solid mileage, no frills, but it'll get you places, so you can go wherever you want on your own terms. Cynthia blinked, too stunned to speak. Then came the tears. This wasn't just a car, it was belief. A declaration from the one person who never doubted she could make it on her own. For the first time in months, the world felt like it might open again. Cynthia sat in the car for almost an hour that night. She didn't drive it. She just sat there, hands on the wheel, engine off, windows down, letting the still air wrap around her like the quiet promise of a new beginning. She traced the dashboard with her fingertips, ran her palm along the steering wheel like she was memorizing every curve. This car wasn't flashy. It didn't have Bluetooth or a backup camera, but it was hers. For the first time in her life, something was truly hers. Not borrowed, not managed by someone else, not a favor she had to earn or explain. It had her name, her dream, her direction. Tears came slow, warm, and uninvited. She cried not because she was sad, but because she finally felt seen. Like the universe had whispered, "You're allowed now." But that feeling lasted less than 24 hours. The next morning, her mom stood in the doorway with a cup of tea and a voice as sweet as always. "We'll hold off on registering the car until we figure out insurance, honey, just for a little while." Cynthia nodded, still glowing from the night before. She didn't think much of it. She had no idea that just for a little while would turn into weeks, then months, until the car was no longer parked out front. And no one mentioned it again. It was as if the gift had evaporated, as if that moment in the driveway had never happened. No arguments, no warning, just gone. And somewhere deep in her chest, a quiet truth settled in like fog. Maybe the car was never mine to begin with. Maybe that moment of joy was the real illusion. It started with insurance. "The policy's complicated, sweetie. We just need to compare quotes." Then came emissions. "We can't register the car until it passes the emissions test." Then the DMV backlog. "COVID's messed up the whole system. No one's getting appointments right now." Then the repairs. "Your father heard a strange noise coming from the engine. We'd better have it checked just to be safe." Then silence. No more explanations. No more updates. Just Cynthia asking and no one answering. She texted. She called. She brought it up casually at dinner. "Hey, has the car been registered yet?" "Still working on it, love." "It's not going anywhere," her father mumbled one day without looking up from his tablet. And that was true, until it did. One afternoon, Cynthia walked by the house and the driveway was empty. No Subaru, no note, no mention, gone. She wanted to believe there was a good reason, that maybe they'd taken it for maintenance, that maybe they were really trying to help. But when she asked again, her mom just smiled softly and said, "We're just keeping it safe for you, that's all." Safe. Like Cynthia was the danger. Like the freedom she had almost tasted was somehow a risk they couldn't afford. She didn't know it yet, but the car hadn't just disappeared. It had been taken. The worst kind of prison is the one that feels like it's your own fault. Weeks passed, then months. The Subaru became a ghost, mentioned less and less, until it was never spoken of again. Cynthia stopped asking. She stopped hoping. And quietly, she started blaming herself. Maybe they're right. Maybe I'm not ready. Maybe I wouldn't know how to handle the insurance or the payments or the responsibility. She hated how natural those thoughts began to feel, how easily her confidence slipped through the cracks in her mind, one invisible drip at a time. Meanwhile, the world kept spinning without her. Job interviews came and went. But while her classmates drove to clinics and shadowed surgeons, Cynthia was waiting at a rainy bus stop, watching her chances disappear in headlights. She missed an interview at 7:30 a.m. because the #14 bus broke down. She showed up late, soaking wet, to another, where the manager's smile faded the moment she mentioned she didn't have a car. "Transportation is critical in emergency care," he said gently. "We need someone who can be on call." She nodded, held her tears till she reached the sidewalk and walked home in silence. All the while, the Subaru, her Subaru, was likely parked in a garage less than 15 minutes away. But it might as well have been on another planet. Not because she lost it, but because someone decided she didn't deserve to keep it. The phone rang on a Wednesday afternoon. Cynthia was folding laundry when she saw the name flash across her screen, Grandpa Walter. She smiled without thinking. That name had always meant warmth, steadiness, safety. She picked up. "Hey, kiddo. Father's Day's coming up. I'm firing up the old grill. Everyone's coming. And listen, bring the Subaru, okay? I've been dying to see you behind the wheel. First time since graduation." The words hit her chest like a brick. Bring the Subaru? She froze. Her heart thudded so loud she could barely hear the rest of what he said. Something about potato salad and homemade peach cobbler. But all Cynthia could think was, he doesn't know. He still thinks I have it. He still believes the car is mine. Cynthia swallowed hard and forced out a cheerful, "Sure, Grandpa, I'll be there." She hung up and stared at the wall for a long time. The truth was, she hadn't seen the car in months. Not since the last time she asked about it and her mom just changed the subject again. Not since the driveway went empty and no one cared enough to explain. And now, the man who gave it to her, the man who believed in her before anyone else, wanted to see her arrive behind the wheel. Instead, she'd be arriving by bus. Cynthia didn't want to go, not really, but a voice inside her said, "You have to." Not to impress anyone, not to pretend, but to face whatever truth was waiting there. So she baked nothing, bought a pie from the store, wore the sundress she'd graduated in, and packed a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. She didn't bring the car, but she brought the truth, and a heart full of pieces no one else could see. The sun was warm, the lemonade was cold, the backyard buzzed with lazy laughter and the smell of sweet corn roasting on the grill. Cynthia sat under the shade of an old maple tree, trying to keep her breathing steady. Plastic forks scraped across paper plates. Her cousins passed around potato salad no one touched. Grandpa was in his element, telling jokes, flipping burgers, pouring glasses of iced tea like it was fine wine. For a moment, it almost felt normal. Then Grandpa stood up. He raised his glass of lemonade like it was champagne, voice booming over the chatter. "To Cynthia, and to the best damn Subaru west of the Mississippi. That thing should last you a decade, kiddo, if you take care of it." The table chuckled. A few cousins looked up mid-bite, smiling politely. But Cynthia's stomach dropped. Her fork froze halfway to her mouth. She didn't know what to say. Her voice caught in her throat, trembling between truth and silence. And then the lie arrived, wearing coral lipstick and a calm maternal smile. Her mother dabbed her lips with a napkin, leaned forward just enough for everyone to hear, and said, "Oh, Dad, that's sweet. But she decided not to keep the car, remember? Said it was too much to mudage while job hunting. We've just been using it for errands. No harm done." The words floated across the table like perfume and poisoned everything they touched. Someone laughed. Someone else nodded. No one looked at Cynthia. No one questioned it. And in that moment, she realized they weren't just letting the lie live. They were helping it breathe. Cynthia blinked. She felt 14 again, watching her mother rewrite a scene in real time, tone perfectly rehearsed, eyes soft with false concern. And everyone believed her. They didn't just steal my car, Cynthia thought. They're stealing my truth. After dinner, while laughter drifted from the grill and kids chased bubbles across the lawn, Cynthia slipped away to the far end of the backyard. She sat beneath a crooked oak tree, phone in hand, heart pounding. The summer air was thick with cicadas and unfinished conversations. She opened her documents folder. There it was, her archive. Quiet, tidy, relentless. Email from the DMV confirming the title had been transferred, rejection from the insurance company stating she wasn't listed on the policy, screenshots of unanswered messages, and one voice recording from 3 months ago in her parents' kitchen. She tapped play. That car, Cynthia, come on. You're not ready for that kind of freedom yet. Let us handle it. You'll thank us later. It was her mother's voice, soft, patronizing, certain. Cynthia's hand trembled slightly. Not because she was afraid, but because she knew now beyond any doubt that she hadn't imagined this. They had rewritten her life in front of everyone, and they thought she would just sit quietly and let them. But this time, Cynthia hadn't just lived the pain, she had saved evidence of it. Not to shame them, not even for revenge, but because one day, maybe today, she would need to speak. And when she did, she wanted her voice to be undeniable. They stole my voice. So I recorded it until I was strong enough to use it again. The garage was quiet, still air and dim light wrapped around everything like a secret. Cynthia pushed open the door gently. The hinges groaned like they hadn't moved in years. A single beam of late afternoon sun sliced through the window, dust dancing in its path like forgotten memories. And there it was, the Subaru. Clean, polished, parked in the corner behind a folding table and 2 patio chairs, like it had never left. Like it had been waiting. Cynthia's breath caught in her throat. She walked slowly toward it, fingers trailing along the side mirror, the hood, the handle. The metal was warm, sun-soaked, familiar, hers. She opened the driver's side door. It wasn't locked. She slid into the seat and froze. The seat was pushed all the way back, far too far for her legs. She didn't need a name. She knew exactly who had been sitting there. Her mother always liked extra legroom. Cynthia sat still, hands resting in her lap. No music, no engine. Just the smell of dust, old seat leather, and time. She didn't cry. She simply sat. This wasn't about a car. It never had been. It was about what the car represented. Control, permission, power, freedom. And suddenly the truth cracked open inside her like lightning. They didn't take the car because she wasn't ready. They took it because she finally was. The house was dim, quiet. Almost too peaceful. Cynthia stepped back inside the screen door, creaking shut behind her like a warning. She found Grandpa in the den. He was sitting in his recliner, the family photo album open in his lap, flipping pages with slow, deliberate hands. Jasper, his beagle, snored gently at his feet. Cynthia stood there for a moment watching him. She hadn't seen him look this still, this tired, in years. Grandpa, he looked up. That same steady gaze, warm but unblinking. "Everything okay, kiddo?" She didn't speak right away. Instead, she stepped forward and held out her phone. He took it, gently, brows furrowed, and tapped through the files she'd opened for him. DMV confirmation of title change, insurance denial, screenshots of unread messages, the voice recording. "You're not ready for that kind of freedom." He listened. He read, and for a full minute he said nothing. His face didn't twist in rage, he didn't shout, but his jaw clenched hard. Then, with a slow breath, he stood. He didn't ask for more proof, didn't ask for permission. He simply said with a voice sharp enough to cut through the past year of silence, "Get everyone in the living room. Now. We're settling this. Tonight." Cynthia nodded, heart racing. because she knew what came next wasn't just a conversation. It was reckoning. The living room still smelled like barbecue sauce and citronella, but now it felt like a courtroom. Aunt Marlene was balancing a slice of pie on her knee. Cousin Brandon was peeling the label off his soda bottle. Uncle Joe still had on his apron. But no one was chewing. No one was smiling. Cynthia stood in the center of the room, her phone in hand, her voice steady. "I wasn't going to say anything tonight," she began. "But since the car came up, and since my mother decided to rewrite the truth in front of all of you, I think it's time you hear the real story." She tapped the screen. "Play! That car, Cynthia, come on! You're not ready for that kind of freedom yet." It was Linda's voice, clear, smooth, maternal. Too perfect, too false. The room fell still. Aunt Marlene set down her pie. Uncle Joe turned toward the fireplace. No one laughed this time. Then Cynthia swiped again. DMV letter showing the title was no longer in her name. Photo of the Subaru parked in her parents' driveway. Email trail of unanswered messages. Rejection letter from the insurance company. Proof. All of it. Undeniable. Linda's face stiffened. "That's taken out of context," she said quickly. But this time, no one nodded. No one backed her up. The silence wasn't confused. It was confrontational. Then Grandpa stepped forward. His voice was low, but every word landed like a gavel. "You stole from your own daughter, lied to me, and sat here tonight pretending it was done out of love." Frank tried to speak, but Walter raised a hand, sharp, firm. "Don't. Just don't." Then he turned to Cynthia. "I'm calling my lawyer first thing in the morning. You and I are going to the DMV. That title is going back into your name legally, completely no loopholes. And if either of them takes one more dime related to that vehicle, they'll answer to me." Cynthia's hands were still shaking, but her voice had never been more still. She had finally spoken, and the lie, the one that had thrived in silence, was dead. The next morning, the air was cool and quiet. Grandpa showed up in a crisp button-down shirt and slacks, pressed respectful, like he was heading into a courtroom, not a DMV. "Government offices still deserve respect," he said, adjusting his watch, "even if the lines don't." Cynthia wore something simple, comfortable, but her shoulders sat higher. Her eyes were steadier. They didn't speak much on the drive. They didn't need to. At the counter, a young clerk with a bored expression greeted them. "How can I help you?" Grandpa stepped forward. "We're transferring ownership back to my granddaughter, Cynthia Whitman." The clerk raised an eyebrow, began typing. "Vehicle ID, Subaru Outback 2012. Your name? Walter Whitman. And hers? Cynthia Whitman." The clerk scanned the documents. Grandpa laid out the original bill of sale, the previous title, the insurance letters, and the signed affidavit. Grandpa insisted on notarizing the night before. A pause, then a nod. "All right, all clear. We'll process the transfer now." Cynthia handed over her ID, signed the forms, initialed where she was told, and just like that, her name was back. Where it always should have been. No applause, no music, just the click of a keyboard and the quiet return of something no one else could give her. Dignity. Grandpa gave a single nod. "Told you we'd get it done." The diner smelled like burnt coffee, old syrup, and stories that never made it into books. Vinyl booths cracked at the edges. The same waitress poured refills like clockwork. The kind of place where the menu hadn't changed in 20 years and didn't need to. Cynthia and Grandpa sat by the window. She ordered pancakes, though she barely touched them. He got eggs over easy and black coffee, same as always. For the first few minutes, they didn't say much. Not because there was tension, but because sometimes silence means everything is understood. Then Grandpa reached into his shirt pocket, pulled out a folded envelope, edges soft and creased with time. "I held on to this," he said. "Didn't feel right giving it to you before. But now it does." Cynthia opened the envelope slowly. Inside was the original bill of sale, signed in his handwriting. with her name on it. She stared at it for a moment, and for the first time, she wasn't afraid to hold it. This wasn't just a document. It was a symbol, not of ownership, but of recognition, of belief. Grandpa sipped his coffee. You didn't yell, Cynthia. You didn't cause a scene. You just kept showing up. She looked down at the paper, her hands steady now. That's how you win, kiddo. Not by proving them wrong, but by refusing to let them erase you. The key felt different now. Not heavier, not lighter, just real. Cynthia stood in front of the garage, her fingers wrapped around the same old metal key Grandpa had handed her over a year ago. But this time, it didn't feel like a symbol. It felt like a fact. She unlocked the door, slid into the driver's seat. No selfies, no Instagram story, no group chat updates. Just breath. She adjusted the mirrors, moved the seat forward, back to her setting, not her mother's, ran one hand across the steering wheel and whispered, almost like a prayer, "We're doing this, finally." The garage door opened with a slow groan. Sunlight poured in, touching the hood like it remembered her. She turned the key. The engine came to life, steady, uncomplicated, willing. No audience, no explanation, no destination. She backed out of the garage, turned onto the road, and rolled the window down. The wind hit her face. Not hard, not cold, just honest. For the first time in a long time, Cynthia wasn't chasing anything. Not approval, not validation, not even justice. She was just driving. And in that motion, quiet, smooth, steady, she felt something far more powerful than freedom. She felt herself. She didn't post about it, didn't send a long text, didn't call to say, "Guess what, I got the car back," because it wasn't about that. There was no need for revenge, no grand finale, no fireworks, just a quiet sense of return. To herself, to her voice, to her own choices. At a red light, Cynthia watched the crosswalk fill with people, kids with backpacks, a couple holding hands, a man juggling coffee cups and a toddler. No one looked at her. No one knew what it had taken to sit behind that wheel, and that was oddly freeing. They don't need to know, she thought. I know, and that's enough. The light turned green. She turned right, not because someone told her to, but because she chose to. For the first time in a long time, she didn't have to ask anyone for permission. Not to drive, not to dream, not to live. And that was freedom. Sometimes the greatest act of courage isn't fighting back with noise. It's choosing not to disappear in silence. Cynthia didn't win because she shouted the loudest. She won because she refused to be erased. In life, you may face people who rewrite your story, who speak over you, who tell you you're not ready, not enough, not capable. But your truth matters, even if no one claps for it, even if no one asks, especially when no one asks. Document it, defend it, and when the time is right, stand in your truth, even if your voice shakes, because freedom doesn't always roar. Sometimes it hums beneath the steering wheel as you quietly take back the road. If this story moved you, made you reflect, or reminded you of your own quiet strength, subscribe to Whispers of Life. We tell stories that don't shout, but speak straight to the heart. Stories that remind you you're not alone. And your voice, it matters more than you think. So if you're ready for more truth, more healing, more humanity, hit that subscribe button. And let's keep whispering until the world hears.